Hi everyone, welcome back. I have the Tonic Studios Floral Gate card kit for this month, and I'm going to be using elements from that. So I've got the 6x6 paper pad that I'm going to use a few pages out of. I'm using the corner piece that creates a pocket, as well as the inlay and the sort of backer for that inlay piece of the corner. I've got the papers that come with the kit, and I'm using 3 of those colours. I'll have all the details listed below of what's in the kit. And then I have the ribbon that came in the kit. I got the blue, the navy maybe, can't remember. And then I've done all the die cutting of all the corner pieces, and the 6x6 pieces I've left as a whole piece, and then I've got the darker pink in cut down to 8x8. So I've got a double page layout that I'm going to do. So for these pockets you do get a little score line that creates when you die cut them, but I'm going to score, like reinforce the score, if that's the right wording. And so I'm just going to grab a paper, not a paper trimmer, a scoring board, and I'm just going to reinforce, like go over those score lines so that it just makes it easier to fold them over. In hindsight, I probably didn't even need to do this because I'm not using them as pockets, but I wanted to show you how the pockets work. So you could create this for wedding. This whole set would make beautiful wedding invitations and RSVPs and all that sort of thing. But you can see it just folds over a couple of the sides to create that little pocket. If you didn't want to use it as a pocket, you could just trim down that edge where the score line is and trim it off, and then you could just stick it sort of on the corners as a decorative piece. So if you're making cards, instead of using it as a pocket, you can do that too. So I'm just going to score all of them sort of mass production styly, if you will, and just kind of lining them up to score to sort of rescore them. I think it's also my machine. If your machine doesn't have the right amount of pressure, sometimes the score lines in dies, not just these ones, any dies, that need those score lines in there, sometimes you have to reinforce them just because they, if your machine's not got quite the right amount of pressure, it doesn't push those score lines in. That made any sense. On the flip side, you don't want to put too much pressure in your machine or it'll just cut through. So it's finding that happy medium with the machine, and depends on your machine. Everybody's machine will be different. So yeah. So then these are the 2 layers, the darker pink and the lighter pink are the 2 layers for the corner piece. So you could use these just on their own, or like I'm doing here, you can layer them up on top of what would be the pocket. But again, you don't need to layer up you don't need to use the pocket as a pocket, like I said earlier. And then getting the glue just on the back in some sort of bigger areas. You don't have to cover the entire thing. One, it's a scrapbook page, so it's going to go in an album. It's going to be in a plastic sleeve. It's going to be protected that way, so it'll fold itself, it'll keep itself flat. If it was a card, I mean, even if it was a card or invitations or something, wet adhesive's pretty strong. Most of them work really, really well. So I don't think you need it all over the back. You could, before you cut the cardstock out, you could lay it onto some double-sided adhesive sheet on one side and essentially create like a sticker from a bigger piece of cardstock, and then die cut your, each layer out. And that will obviously create a sticker on the back and the adhesive on the back, so you could just stick it straight down. Or you could even use a sticker maker if you have one of those. And after you've die cut it, run it through, and it does the same thing. It puts some adhesive on the back, and that creates a sticker to make it easier to stick these things down. But wet adhesive is pretty strong. And if you've got a pretty good quality one, then you should be fine. You won't need to put that all over the back, and it's messy if you do on all those little pieces, because it's very detailed. So I basically went around the edge because I thought that made sense, and then just a few spots in the middle somewhere, wherever, random. If there were bigger areas, say like on the edge of some of the flower detail, or if there were leaves or something like that, just somewhere where you've got just a little bit extra in the middle, then that just helps. But around the edge is probably your best bet. The middle is just so it doesn't lift up. So those are them done. And look at them, they're so pretty, aren't they? I just love them. So now we get to stick these. Oh no, we're doing the pages. I forget what I did. So I have two of the sort of darker pink, and I used the stripy blue pattern from the paper pack, and I'm using the one that looks, to me it looks a bit like denim, which I thought was kind of cool, and it worked with the blue that I had, the navy and the kit. I mean, obviously as a kit the whole thing, you know, everything matches and coordinates and stuff, but I thought it also worked really well with the photographs that I'm going to use. And this is where I don't know why, but square into square, the border being the size of the border, I was trying to get it centered-ish. So I'll show you what I do in a second here, because it was driving me mad. But I also want the stripes to go in different directions, just so that each page, although it's a double page, each one will be slightly different. And yeah, just a little bit different from the previous one. So this is where I brought in my Simon Says, this is a 6-inch ruler, T-bar ruler. And as it turns out, because the ruler itself is about an inch wide, and I needed about an inch all the way around, I used that just as a guide to get the square on the middle, or stuck on them in the middle. So I measured where I put the bottom corner of the blue paper was an inch on the measurement on the ruler, but the ruler itself was about an inch wide. So if that made any sense, hopefully you could see that better from what I was saying, from what I was doing there. But basically I just wanted to put them in the middle of the 8x8 page. And then I've got this is I believe this is lawn fawn tape. It's about 1/8 of an inch, and it's pretty strong tape, so I thought that would be good for the backs of these. So this is on the inside, if you like, of the fold, so that when you wrap it round the corner, you're then going to stick it to the back of the page. And it lines up pretty easy. I was just faffing about with it. It's pretty easy to line up on there. And then getting the other two. Same thing, just lining it up in the corner. And then using the edge of the fold to help me feel where the edge of the page was. And then they're going to sit slightly underneath that, but that's fine. And then these little corner pieces with the floral bit on it, I decided to put them on some foam. So I've got some, again, it's from one of the kits, one of the Simon Says kits, and they're scrapbook adhesive foam squares, and they're just they're like a really narrow, like not very tall kind of foam. So excuse me, so they create a bit of dimension, but it's not too high or bulky, especially that you're putting this into a scrapbook album. So that was just something to note, that if you're going to use foam, like foam dots and that, just don't make them too bulky, because you've got to get it in that page protector. So these worked out really well, because it just gives a little bit of dimension, but it's they're not super high. So I thought that worked really well. And then just getting them on the second one here. And they line up really, really well. Like, very easy to line them up. So can you see how you could use this as kind of like a card layout if you wanted to, instead of, you know, maybe not into scrapbooking, maybe you want to do it as a card layout, then you could do this on the front of a card. It could be a square card. It could be a slimline card. I would say probably a normal size slimline, not a mini, because I don't think you'd have enough space to get two corners on. Maybe you would. Give it a whirl. But also it's you could use it on a standard A2 card. That should work. Yeah, just whatever you want to do. But this is just an idea for, like I say, scrapbook pages, but I'm doing them, you can do them for cards as well. And like I say, this set lends itself very well to like wedding invitations or baby shower invitations, you know, something really fancy. You could use these quite easily for that. But I think you could also, if you were so inclined, you could also grunge this up and make it sort of more, well, grungy, and, you know, give it that sort of vintagey kind of look if you wanted to create like a different kind of scrapbook page or cards or whatever it was. Or even if that was the theme of, say, your wedding. You know, maybe you've got like a really vintagey kind of wedding thing going on. You could do that. So I'm doing the second page. And exactly the same thing. I've just turned and made sure that my corners are in the opposite, not in the opposite direction. The corners are in the same place, but the paper, the stripes are going in different directions, just so that, again, it just gives a little bit of something different on the page. Because I have one photograph that's landscape and one that's portrait, I wanted to kind of make that kind of definition, if that makes sense. Like making them a little bit different for each one. Because they are photos that are going in different directions. So I decided that actually if you just mix it up, it's still a 2-page layout. It's still going to all coordinate and make sense because it's to do with the same time. It's the same, you know, everything, it's just cohesive, but it's just a little bit different. So get my corners on again. Same again with the foam pads. And this is basically the 2 pages. You could leave it like this, just add a bit of journaling or a couple of notes or whatever you want, however you do your scrapbook pages. But I wanted to add the ribbon in. Now, I don't often use ribbon because, I don't know, I just don't know what to do with it half the time. I love ribbon, I have a lot of it. So I decided on these, I would take a piece, just stick it to the back with a bit of normal sticky tape, and then just kind of make some sort of crossover sort of pattern, if you will, or design, I don't know what you want to call it, with the ribbon itself, just so they kind of cross over in the middle. So I'm just wrapping it around. Again, you can do this on cards, you can do this on scrapbook pages, you can do this on your art journaling, you can do this on whatever you want. It just makes a good sort of, like just a bit of interest in the background, so it's not so plain. Although this is still quite a plain layout, you know, it's not busy is what I mean. So it's quite a simple layout. So now that I've got that on that way, I now need to do the opposite on the other one. So it's going to go in the opposite direction because the stripes go in the opposite direction. That makes sense. So you'll see I'll turn this in a minute. Trying to work out which one goes on which. I will turn this in a minute so that so that I can get the stripes going. So the ribbon goes in the opposite direction to the stripes, but it's the right way around for the photograph. I'm not even sure if this makes sense, but hopefully you can see what I'm trying to achieve. So yeah. And it's a nice way to use some really nice thin ribbon like this. It's really pretty ribbon. It's nice satiny sort of feel to it. Really nice. So just getting the crisscross going on here. Tape it at the back again. Simple. Super simple. And this is where I realised actually one needs to go that way. So that they're kind of opposite. So hopefully this makes sense now that you can see that bit. So now I just need to stick my photographs on. And as long as you use a acid-free adhesive on the back, your photos should be fine. Just maybe do a bit of research on it, because I once before used one that did tell me it was acid-free and it was for crafting and all that, and it wasn't. And yeah, thankfully the photos that I had they were printed ones, so I can still get them, but there were a few pages where the photos are ruined now because the tape wasn't right. So just be careful with things like that. So on here I'm just writing the little notes. My mum was very, very good with putting little notes on the back, like the year and the date and all that. So I had a rough idea of when this was. Well, not a rough idea, I had an idea of when this was. So yeah, so I just got the dates off the back and popped them on there with the name of the person who's in the photo, and then that's it. So got some tape on the back. The lawn fawn tape, I believe, is acid free, and that's the one I'm using for the back of the photos. Makes sense. So I'm going to pop this one on here, and I did land up going with them going in the same direction as the photos are gone in the same direction. It actually worked out better with the photos across the ribbon. So I did switch that out, or, you know, switched it up, which is fine. You know, you can do that halfway through a project. It's not a problem. Then just lining these up. And this is where having them as the corners as pockets means I can just tuck those photos underneath. If I didn't want to do that, I could just lay them straight on the top and it'd be fine. So there you go, guys. A very simple, very pretty 2-page layout. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you guys are enjoying your kit. And I will see you in the next one, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, bye for now.